Hi there, it's Joao-Pierre Ruth again, Senior Editor for Information Week, and I had a few minutes before recording today's podcast, and I thought I would take some time to just kind of put something out there to help our audience and potential audience to get to know part of the team a little bit better. Again, Joao-Pierre Ruth, often referred to as JP because it's a little easier for folks to pronounce. Been senior editor for Information Week for say about a year and a half now. I've been with the team for more than 5 years, and I've been a journalist for more than 27 years, if I get my dates correct. Covered primarily the business sector when it comes to the journalism that I've done over the years, with technology growing into the space me growing into the technology coverage for the better part of my career. So, what do? Senior editor, I do a fair amount of editing with a group of freelancers and some of the folks are actually in-house as well that we work with at Information Week. I tend to chase people down for making sure that they have active voice in their stories because that's one of my personal pet peeves of that. Just want to make sure that there's a really good tight presentment of what is happening and give some of the immediacy of and importance of what is going on in our content. When I started with Information Week, primarily was covering cloud computing, but even more so now with, well, not so much more so now with cloud computing, but with my more recent duties, editing and also reporting. I do things covered like data privacy. Also do things where I'm most recently I did some work covering quantum computing, and I'm allowed some of the space to just present ideas that say, hey, this is of interest to me and to me, and the more senior editors, the managing editor and the editor in chief, they're pretty flexible, and I really appreciate that. So let's talk about. I'm sure there are a number of people in public relations who want to pitch ideas to me, want to get a better understanding of what I cover, how to better get an understanding of what it is that I'm looking for. So let's talk about, I guess, the two key things for me. First, let's talk about embargoes. I've posted this a number of times on my LinkedIn page, and if you send me a pitch that has the word embargo in it, it's going to bounce via my email because I have a rule set up to make it bounce because I do not work with pitches under embargo. And if you'll probably see the response message that we'll get, and I'll kind of summarize why I do not work with pitches under embargo. And this is my personal perspective. There are others who on the team and elsewhere in journalists who have different perspective on embargoes. But the core thing that I have issues with embargoes is the idea that this is content that might be yanked by whomever has set up and established, the embargo. So there is a chance that what I'm covering might all of a sudden just need to, we need to stop that. We need to hold the story now. And I understand there are reasons why those things are set up. There could be legal reasons. There could be contractual things that you're doing. The ink hasn't dried yet. There might be regulatory things that organization or company, they might have to wait until a certain time passes before you're allowed to say something. I understand that, and I appreciate that. However, I'd rather see and hear and discuss things once they are readily available to the wide public, because I'm not trying to, I'll be blunt, I'm not trying to be part of what might be seen as a marketing campaign, a marketing flow that an organization might have where you want to drill down on your messaging and make sure you channel all the verbiage around you to go a certain way at a particular time. I appreciate that. I'm not going to be part of that. That's just how it's going to be. It's at least with me. And I try to explain as gently as possible to folks why the idea of positioning of content in that way is something that just is not something I want to be a part of. And yes, there are different ways we can approach that and discuss that possibly, but in general, embargoes are I want to hear and see what the content is, what the news is, what is open to the public. That's it. So rather than see if we can kind of like position things, just reach out to me when it's public. The other aspect to embargoes is oftentimes embargoes are tailored around the idea of the launch of a product, the announcement of some kind of new feature. Perhaps there's like the opening of an office, or it is some kind of, maybe not even a milestone, but oftentimes it is a certain thing the company's putting out to say, here's this new potential offer or item or service or something like that. And new product launches, product updates, service launches, service updates. Again, that is also something that I don't cover. I'm not here for and again, there is a market for that. There is a news market for that, and I'm not trying to disparage that. I'm just trying to say that is not something that I cover. I don't cover product launches. I don't cover the new release of the latest service update for this thing. I don't cover the fact that this particular software now has an integration with something like that. I don't cover that. All right. I'm looking at policy. I'm looking at trends. I'm looking at strategy. I'm looking at the ways that research and development is going on certain technology. I'm looking at the intersection of government interaction with technology, how organizations are trying to better understand regulators and what they want when it comes to their application of technology. What kinds of issues an organization might have to worry about when they are in the midst of working deploying something, and how that might affect not only their services, but also the customers that they work with. So those are the things that I work on. Those are the things that are interest to me. So those are the things that I work on. Those are the things that are paramount to me. So again, there are places for presenting your latest updates, your latest things, and appreciate that. But that is not something that I'm personally going to cover. Again, trends, strategy, latest news in terms of things that are going to affect widespread industries. Those are the things that I'm more interested in. And that also relates to the podcast. The Das One Hunt podcast has gone through a number of different iterations in terms of format and what have you. And of late, and this is the going format now, is we are focused on panel discussions about going trends and topics. And I do my best to run the list of what we are planning for a particular month each week. We record each Friday, 12 noon. Coming up real soon. 12 noon on Fridays, Eastern time. Barring my absence of availability, that is always going to be the recording time for the podcast. And again, panel discussions. I'm not looking for individual companies to do a deep dive, profile them. That is not what's going to be on the podcast. That's not what we're doing. And that has actually not been part of the podcast, even in some of the prior iterations. The podcast, and I appreciate that there are folks who look at podcasts and just look at it as quick, let me get my client on there and just talk about their company. I appreciate the work that people are doing, but at the same time, the focus of the podcast is to talk about trends and strategy. And I try to pick topics that speak to a going issue, a going matter that may have widespread factors that our audience is going to want to hear about. And it does not mean that there is not a space in the podcast universe for doing profiles of companies again. But for the Das One Hunt podcast, the focus is on panel discussions, talking about going trends, matters that could affect organizations. Again, could be right now, today we're going to be looking at, the first half of, something that the things that are going to go on in relation to the upcoming election. It's going to be a two-parter, looking at that. And then we have to, plan for, because there are things that are going to be happening with this upcoming election. There will be a new administration one way or the other. That's going to happen. There will be, depending on who wins, there will be potentials for new agency leadership. There will be potentially new federal directives. These are things that we want to dissect, as well as other aspects of the election itself. But those are things that we will get to. in the next couple of episodes. But again, those are the kinds of topics that we cover in the podcast. And I do advise folks in public relations who want to pitch their clients. I appreciate that you have a lot of work that you have to do, that time is precious for you. But I do recommend at least giving the podcast a look or listen, so you understand what you're getting your clients into before you try to run them up the flagpole to be possibly on there. And that also goes for content for our stories. It does get a little frustrating, and I'm sure every other journalist out there has dealt with this. When we're in the mode of like trying to go back and forth and explain to folks what we're doing, and it becomes very clear very quickly when somebody has either not watched or listened to the podcast or really read any of our content, and you've got a list, you've got a name, you're trying to get high volume of exposure out for your clients. I get that, but you do better service, I think, to yourself and your clients by being more aware of who it is you're pitching and what it is that they do. So there are often times where we get pitches where it's something that's very much outside our ballpark, not something that we cover, and have to gently, sometimes repeatedly, explain to people like, no, thank you, that is not what we do here. So again, for the podcast, panel discussions, looking for experts, stakeholders to talk about what they care about, what's important to them, how things are going to affect them in their industry, in their respective industry, regards to that particular topic. That's it. Pretty straightforward. I'm not trying to do any gotcha questions when we do the podcast. And also a quick note for the folks in public relations, when we do the podcast or recording, it's a little technical thing. There are no silent observers. It is just the guests. So the PR team will not be on the podcast. So just send your folks to me. They'll be in good hands. Watch some of the past episodes so you can see what they're getting into. And that's it. I'll probably record another one of these or a few more of these to kind of help you flesh out your understanding of how I work, and others from the Information Week team might be recording episodes in the future, hopefully, if I can convince them. But that's it for me. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.